Hey Chip, how you doing? Happy Saturday, everybody. Well, strictly speaking, Sunday morning here in the UK. Hope everybody is well. UK. Hope everybody is well. Let's turn the sound off. Hey Patrick, Daniel, Syed. Yes, Daniel. I did get that notification from Royal Mail. Thanks very much. And I got a customs charge of £10.99, which, all things being considered, is not too bad. There it is, £10.99. So I'll get that paid, and we've got a bank holiday, so I won't get it now till Tuesday. Hey Mad Piper, how you doing? So I've got this cigar here, sitting here. I actually smoked this yesterday, and this is a Partagas E2, and it was so tasty that I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I ran out of time and I couldn't finish it, so I left it, and I thought maybe I'll finish it off tonight. I do want to show you guys where I'm up to with the crown pipe and what I've got planned for it. There's still a fair bit to do with it, but it's looking really good already. Hey Snoopy. Jeff Barry-Recky. It's a blast from the past. I haven't seen you in ages. How are you? Hey Patrick. So I've got a package coming from Daniel. Daniel put a couple of pipes up for sale, which I bought. Correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but the Stanwell, did I sell you that in the first place? Because if it is that one, I'm quite happy to get it back, to be honest. A nice pipe. I thought so. I wasn't sure. I mean, I have seen a couple of them. They're quite rare. You don't see a lot of them around. So what was it? Too big, too small? What was the problem with it? Didn't smoke well? Tight draw. The ball hole was small compared to Norther. All right. Okay, so the draw, I guess I could sort out if I need to. But the bowl being a small hole, that's fine for me. I'm okay with that. That's if I keep it. Maybe I'll still resell it in the future. Who knows? I do find it interesting that some of the old-time pipe collectors, they would often have one of the main guys that kind of is a protagonist of this is Rich Esserman. He's well known for smoking very large pipes, and he has amazing pipes, but you also see him trading amazing pipes in order to get even more sort of great pipes that he likes. He's a big fan of the 1920s Dunhills or Parkers, the Magnum sort of billiards. But you'll see him trading in some amazing pipes in order to get those, and I mean, I think he has Bo Nord pipes, he has Chonowitz pipes. He's got some amazing pipes in his collection. But what's interesting is that he's got a fairly sort of tight group of people, of collectors that know each other and have known each other for 20, 30 years or more. And they'll trade pipes backwards and forwards. And they'll say, I'm trading this pipe with you, but it's on condition that I get first refusal if you decide to get rid of it. And often they'll just take it straight back whenever the guy decides they've had it enough and they want to trade it for something else. And I think that's sort of the original sort of pipe community. And I think that's, you know, when you've got a tight group of people who you can trust and have that kind of arrangement with, I think that's really cool. Oh, cool, Jeff. And thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. I've been enjoying the large Parker. I've been smoking the heck out of that. Well, I wouldn't say smoking the heck out of it, but I've been enjoying it. You remember I converted this to 9mm a couple of weeks ago. Just an amazing pipe. I think this pipe will stay with me for a long time. I'll treasure it. It's just got such an exceptional blast. And for me, it's a special pipe. The last bowl I had in it was London Fog. I've been smoking that a lot too. I did a batch a few weeks ago. This is in April 23, so it's maybe been 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, and those few weeks make an absolute massive difference. Yeah, it is a very cool pipe. I saw this pipe when I was in Rome a few months ago, and I kind of lusted after it, but I didn't have the funds at the time to buy it. And I ended up watching it online for a few weeks, had it in my basket a few times, and eventually I pulled the trigger. And I'm really tempted to get another one, but I have to wait till I make some more money. I'm supposed to be getting some Edgeworth sliced. One of the people that I'm sub to, actually a customer of mine, opened a vintage tin of Edgeworth sliced, and he said he'd send me some flakes, so I'm hoping that would happen soon. I really want to try that tobacco. Hey Mike. How's the volcano, Mike? You started smoking it yet? Can't remember if you told me if you had or hadn't. I think maybe you said you had. So my question is simply, do I just go with that cigar now, or start with a pipe? Let me just move things around a little bit. There we go. Beard's growing, so long as it's been for a while. We have a custom that you've been on a cruise. Ooh-ah. We have a custom that from Passover through to The festival, which we just finished today, we had a 2-day festival starting yesterday and today. So we have a custom that in between the two festivals, we don't cut our hair. Or at least for most of the period, we don't cut our hair. So I use that excuse to grow it and see what it's like. My wife wants me to cut it. She hates me having a long beard, but what I've done is I've trimmed the sides so it doesn't look like it's, just wild. So we shall see. We'll see how long I can get away with it for. So, unfortunately, the rear-facing camera is not that great, but it'll have to do. There's a little bit of clouding on it, I think, which makes it a little bit hazy and not as contrasty. Pipe of the year, should do a Yabo soon from Bogner Flioli. Ooh, nice. Yeah. From Smoking Pipes, you got it? Funnily enough, I was actually looking at some old magazines today, and I saw one of his pipes. And Josh, spot on. Interesting how times change. In the past, if your wife said to you, "Does my bum look big in this?" and you were honest, you were in trouble. Nowadays, are you talking about Bon Figlioli from is it Italy? Well, that's a pipe of the year for the club that you go to. That's this year's club pipe for your club. He actually does a pipe of the year himself for just his own output, and I've often sort of thought I want to get on that, but I think he only makes something like 20 or something, and he's probably got queues of people waiting for them, so I've never even bothered trying. But I've wanted to have just one of his in my collection. There are some pipe makers that I just want to say that I've got one, because it's first of all, he's, I mean, his pipes are quite rustic a lot of the time. They're quite sort of, pipes that you'd be happy to smoke every day. They're not pipes that you're going to hide away in a drawer, and they're affordable, No, but I think he does do filtered, if you order one. I think you can order. I've just never really tried. I suppose I should really. But there are some, pipe makers that I really, somebody actually left a comment recently on my channel. He doesn't understand why I buy pipes if I make pipes. But that's missing the whole point of pipe collecting. First of all, I was a pipe collector. Well, I never use the word collector, but because my pipes, very few of my pipes have sentimental value, kind of thing. It really depends on how well they smoke most of the time. Occasionally there's some sentimentality, but generally speaking, it depends how well they smoke. So I was a pipe smoker way before I was a pipe maker, and I get tad and pad just as much as anybody else. It's definitely slowed down since being a pipe maker. The vast majority of my rotation are my own pipes, and I'll show you if you have a look on my my unit over here. So these are my sort of day-to-day rotation pipes. So there's 14 pipes there. I've got some more up there as well, but these are the ones which are my day-to-day. And if you have a look, that whole bottom row are my own pipes, and the row above are other branded pipes. I smoke those too, but I smoke these a hell of a lot more. So, you could say that why do I need to go out and buy a pipe? And that's a fair point, but like I say, I still have pad and tad, and I might buy a pipe, and it might actually sit for quite a while till I actually get to smoke it. I've got a few pipes which I haven't smoked yet. I've got some couple up there which I've showed recently. What's the brand now? The Barlings, the new Barlings that I bought recently. So I haven't touched those, I haven't smoked those yet. I think I'm going to go for some OGS first. Hey David, how you doing? If you guys want to see a very nice LCS Canadian pipe, check out Rockin' Steady's channel. He's got one of the better Canadians that I've made. It's a very big pipe. I wouldn't necessarily call it a Magnum, but it's a big pipe. But check out the pipe on his channel. Really, really gorgeous pipe. Daniel, that's a good question. It's been a while since I've looked through them, so I can't answer that yet. I'm going to be I think I'm going to do one more video of the tobaccos that I've still got available. We've sold the vast majority, there's still about 30% of them left, something like that. So I'd like to get a few more shifted, and then I'll just leave those to sell as a trickle as and when people are interested, and then I'll focus on the pipes. There's about 70 pipes, 60 to 70 pipes, some of them really, really high grade pipes. So that's going to be next, I guess. Yeah, I would say that I've probably got somewhere between 6 and 8 pipes still waiting to be smoked, brand new pipes. So I actually smoked London Fog in this pipe last. Wow, that's praise indeed. Thank you, David. Well, I think it's a gorgeous pipe too. I would agree with you. And I'm not gonna knock one of my pipes, but I say with a very, very easy and clear conscience that that's one of the best Canadians I've made. Also because it wasn't filtered, so the shape of the pipe is more honestly a Canadian. It's a more a real Canadian shape because the shank is flatter. Good evening, Nick Trapani. London Fog is a mix I made maybe 4 or 5 years ago of 2 tobaccos, which we often try to mix blends that we like and put them together and think, that might taste good. I've done that many times, but there's only one blend that has really ever worked. I mean, Orlik Golden Sliced and vanilla roll cake works as well, but it works more as a diluter. So if vanilla roll cake is just a little bit too heavy, perhaps a little bit too aromatic-y, so you can dilute it with Orlik Golden Sliced, and it's just a very nice blend. But it's not. It's. I see it more as it being a dilution of vanilla roll cake. But London Fog is two different tobaccos which just work so well together. London Fog is Orlik Golden Sliced again, and it's mixed with McClelland's Virginia Woods. Virginia Woods is no longer available, as are all of the McClellans are no longer available on the retail market. I was lucky enough to put away a few tins. I think I have a couple of tins still to go. Recently I made this batch a few weeks ago. I did that on one of the London calling sessions a few weeks ago, and it's just coming into its own. But tonight I'm going with OGS on its own, Orlik Golden Sliced. '40th birthday, Daniel, very nice. Well, if you want, I'll be happy to make you one. Just drop me a line and you can commission one. Some Bear Mountain Flower, Patrick is smoking. Well, Patrick wants a bowl call, so off you go, chaps. And I'm currently smoking Orlik Golden Sliced in my Parker XL. So I recently announced that one of the English websites is taking on my pipes, and I'm just almost finished the first batch, so that'll be going out and hopefully be up in the next week or two. So I'll be announcing that formally and making a fuss about it in the near future. And I'm going to show you in a minute where I'm up to on the crown pipe, the coronation pipe. Macanudo 68 cigar and a margarita. HH Pure Virginia in a GBD for Nick. Marlin Flake in a Zulu for Josh. Quiet Nights in an LCS author for Daniel. Orlik Golden Sliced in a Salve for Snoopy. EJ Fernandez Enclave for Smoke Inside. Early Morning Pipe and a Peterson for Mad Piper. There's a few tins of Dunhill Early Morning Pipe left from the sale. They'll have a few years of age on that. Phil Rivara is in the house. How you doing, Phil? So I said I would show you where I was up to with the pipe. Like I said, there's still a way to go on it. So this is where, I'm going to turn the camera around because this deserves to be shown properly. So this is where the pipe is up to. So the stem is now done. And so here, this is actually going to have a silver band going around that. And this is got a purple stain, and that's, so essentially this is basically a crown sitting on a pedestal, sitting on a cushion. Beautiful grain on the bowl itself, and if you watch the coronation, you'll know that this shape is basically after the shape of the crown. And here we have, this hasn't been glued together yet, but this is a tamper which sits inside the bowl. So it's briar and the same Crown Series stem material, and that's a piece of briar. It's one piece of briar, and this is a special custom order I made. I had made this crown. I had this made. This is sterling silver. It's really quite hefty sterling silver. There's a lot of silver in there. That's going to be glued on, obviously. And what I'm considering doing is, so there's going to be a silver band going around that. That has to be custom made as well, because I can't get one to fit over the pipe because it's narrower. So there's going to be a silver band fitted to that, and it may also be a crown achievement, yeah. And I may also fit stones into that, so there might be red, white and blue stones all the way around, around there, and also on the ring here on the crown at the top. And once that's done, the pipe will be ready. I'm going to have the king's insignia laser engraved on the base. There's actually some nice bird's eye there, but the insignia will be on there. And I'm thinking also to possibly do somewhere, maybe over here, God Save the King, or possibly Ishdeen, which is his motto. Well, it was his motto when he was Prince of Wales. I don't know if it's still his motto, but it's worked out really nice. It's a special piece. It's a historic piece, and in each of the Crown series that I've done, there's always been one or two sort of exceptional pieces, you know, more sort of sculptural pieces. So this time round I only did one, but I've really spent a lot of time on it. This has been already 2 weeks in the making at least, this pipe, and it's going to be another probably another couple of weeks for the silver and stonework to be done. So we shall see. And what this is going to have actually is going to I think what I'm going to do each time whenever there is a Crown series is that the sort of premier pipe of that series will have 2 crown stamps on it, as opposed to the single crown which I use for the Crown series. I think I'll have 2 crown stamps on the main pipe of the series, or if there's more than one sort of sculptural piece, maybe there'll be a couple. But what works really well as well is the grain. The grain really works so well with the pipe. It's just really good. Very happy with it. So that silver work still has to be done. I've got to send it away for that, so it's going to take some time, and then I have to decide. I'll see how it looks, and either I'll engrave the silver or I'll put some stonework on it. Yet to be decided. I wasn't sure how the purple would work out, but it looks really nice. It would have been, you know, because it's brown underneath, the purple is always going to be a bit darker. It's not going to be a light purple, but the idea is there. Obviously, it's to be a royal purple color, so that's the same color up there too. And then the next bit will be is deciding on a price. That's going to be the hardest piece. Always is the hardest bit. A Commonwealth pipe. That's a cute idea. Not sure how I would represent the fact that it's for the Commonwealth. I should imagine the next series will be on the anniversary of the Queen's passing, so in a few months' time. Where are we now? In May. Yeah, 5-6 months' time I'll get starting on that. So that will be somehow relevant to the Queen. I'm not sure how, but I haven't even thought about it. I still have a couple of Crown Series pipes to make, even though the book is finished on them. I've closed the book. I'm not taking any more orders on Crown Series, on Crown Series 2. But I had a couple of commissions which were ordered whilst the book was open, so I still need to do those. Ram's horn. What, like a full ram's horn? Best person to ask would be Big Phil. I can ask him. From one of the farms, perhaps. He'll be able to get it. Actually, he might even have one, because he offered me a couple of bits. I'm not sure if they were rams or if they were bull's horns. I'm not sure. But they just didn't, they weren't right for what I wanted at the time. Or you can buy a chauffeur. A chauffeur is a ram's horn. You know what a chauffeur is, yeah? Usually it's a ram's horn. Now the thing is that would already be cut and drilled through if it was a chauffeur. I'm going to message him now, otherwise I'll forget. Okay, I've sent him a message. The Queen's cane? Is that a commission?
What?
She wants same style. Oh, I see what you mean. The ones with the crook on the top of her, the one that she used to walk in the Highlands with. Is that what you're talking about? Have you sent the picture yet? I'm with you. There must be websites you can buy them from, Phil. Yeah, I'm looking at the same picture now online. Ah, so it's completely smooth. Okay. I thought you wanted it to have the craggy outside. £200 to £400. What, to buy one? To buy a horn? Well, that's what you're charging for the bit for the stick. What, to buy the stick or just to buy the horn? Completed cane, okay. Well, so how does that work? I mean, do you hollow it out and then fill it with something, or once you've bent it? Or do you just leave it natural and bend it to the shape that you want? Yeah, 90 sounds okay, actually. I mean, if I was to buy a shofar, I would pay that kind of money for one. Possibly even more, like 100, 120, but that's already been hollowed out and made so you could blow a note out of it. Right, but you don't hollow it out or anything like that. I suppose you want it to be as robust as possible. That's solid, right? And what do you do? Some kind of mortise and tenon kind of thing to connect it to the stick? Or you put a screw in there or something? Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess a mortise and tenon would eventually snap, wouldn't it, if you're leaning on it? But I guess these things are kind of walking aids rather than for people who need a proper walking stick. It's more like walking in the countryside kind of stick, I would have thought. Or would it be something that you could really put your weight on? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're pretty solid. Well, you could do damage with that handle, I'm sure. Hook certain parts of the anatomy with it. Dorset sticks. They've got a ram's horn walking stick. Let's see what their price is. Oh, they got loads. Oh, but there's no prices. Oh, sticks for sale. There we go. £185, 235, 175. It might be simpler for you to just buy one of these, Phil. Although they won't be finished to your standards, I'm sure. A lovely ram's horn crook style walker, 48 inches tall, super mottled shank with sloping joint to handle. A lovely stick, great companion, blah blah, £185. All sticks can be cut to size and brass ferrule fitted. £300. Yeah, that sounds really fair, Phil. 225 and up. Yeah, they've got some here for 235 or something like that. I imagine it depends on the complexity of it. He's a big boy. Yeah, I kind of started that discussion with Phil a while back when I was having trouble with one of my legs, my feet, but I never followed through. But one day. I've seen a pipe one. I don't know if that's from you, Phil, or not. I have seen a pipe walking stick where the handle is a pipe and it's detachable and you can smoke it. I don't know, maybe that was downhill. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It might have been downhill. I don't remember whether or not the. I'm not quite sure how they dealt with the pipe not breaking because the pipe is hollow. You actually started a pipe-shaped handle? For me? Then we should finish it. Actually, if it was made specifically for me, then we should finish it. I can't have you working and not being paid for it. Get in touch with me, Phil. If you started working on it specifically for me, then we'll finish it. I wasn't aware that you started on it. Oh yeah. Okay, I don't know if this was the one that I saw. Oh, it's beautiful. It's jewel encrusted as well. That must be worth a fortune. There's pictures on Estevil's website. Look at those jewels. So I guess the pipe just went inside that compartment there. But that's more of a gentleman's accessory rather than a real walking stick, I would have thought. I mean, it's usable, but All right. Can you send me some pictures of it, Phil, if you find it? But yeah, by all means, we'll finish that off. The CNC, yeah. I've got to pay you for it. Anyhow, so I've got a bunch of pipes I need to just finish off. I'm sending, I think, half a dozen pipes to this website. I can show you a couple of the pipes, I think. Have I got them here handy? I haven't actually put them on YouTube. And some of you might have seen me making them, or you might have seen pictures of them on Instagram, possibly. So this is one of them. So it's a carb blasted bent billiard. It's a really nice carb blast. With a smooth rim. And the other one is a beautiful Lovat. Let me turn this around, this camera's useless. So this is the first one. Smooth rim. With like a sort of a maroon kind of translucent stem. And the other one is a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So we've got some really amazing bird's eye on one side, all the way up the shank. And a lovely carve blast on the other side. Really nice patterns on the carve blast on this one. It would have been smooth, but you know, the grain on this side is mesmerizing. It's just unbelievable grain. But the other side was just, you know, it was nothing special. So those are the two pipes which will be going with some of my other pipes. There's a very slight forward cant on that. Look at that. Which I thought would be interesting. Maybe could have done with being even more canted to make it more pronounced, but lovely lightweight pipe, that one. In fact, they're both pretty lightweight. That's a good thing about the carve blast, is that it does, you know, reduce the weight of the pipe quite significantly. You can actually reduce it by sometimes as much as 15 grams, and that makes all the difference. If you've got a pipe which is, say, 60 grams and you bring it down to 45 or 40 grams, that makes a big difference. Some people have a certain threshold by which they order pipes, they buy pipes. So mine, although it's not a hard and fast rule, but as a general rule, I like to buy pipes which are 50 grams and lower. So obviously this one is more than that, but generally I prefer to smoke a pipe which is 50 and lower. Evening, Sam. So you make a pipe which is, say, 50 grams, you carve blast it, you can take it down to 35, 37 grams, something like that. And that's a lightweight pipe. So hopefully by Tuesday I should have 2 pipes to show you, which Daniel has sent me, which I bought off Daniel. There's a Stanwell and an unsmoked, a small unsmoked Castello. I don't know, Sam. I have seen some really nice Seiko 5s. It really depends on if you found one that you like the look of. But in terms of reliability, I think they lose a little bit each day. They're not the sort of premier range, but you don't want to pay premier prices. So I think the movement on these ones, for instance, I think is the H something or other. I'm not sure what it says on the back. I mean, the mod that I've ordered, that one's the H. I'll tell you in a second. It's the NH35A movement, which is the one that I've ordered. I don't know if I showed you the actual watch, but that's the one that I've ordered. So that's a very close copy of the Yachtmaster, the Rolex Yachtmaster, but it's a Seiko, and it says Seiko on it. But it's a great looking watch. But this guy has just phenomenal looking watches. They're just so realistic. Take a look at that. They're just really, really very, very well done, and the pricing is really fair. Yeah, well, that's reasonable enough, Phil. You know, those pipes are expected to be heavy. I mean, my crown pipe, that's going to probably be over 100 grams, I'd imagine. trucking, you wouldn't notice a difference with a stem that short, because the actual amount that's in your mouth is the button and a little bit more. It'd smoke exactly the same as any other pipe. It's just the look. It's the Lovat. That's the idea of a Lovat, a very short stem. That's what a Lovat is. It's basically a billiard with a long shank, short stem, a short saddle stem. What, the crown pipe is definitely not a clencher. Will definitely not be a clencher. In fact, I would probably put a note in with whoever buys it to say do not clench this pipe, because the weight of it would probably make you snap the stem. If you bite down on the stem in order to hold it, because it's so heavy, you'll either bite right through the stem or you'll snap it. So I'll probably have to put a note in that, so I don't get somebody contacting me and saying, hey, your stem broke. But there's a way to go on that pipe, as I say. I want to get a box done for it as well, and I want to get the box laser engraved with the King's insignia. I want it to be a real piece, and I'm going to line it with purple velvet. You know, I think I've still got some left of that. We've had really good weather here today, actually, and we're due to have good weather for a few days. So we've got a bank holiday weekend, so kids are off school till Wednesday, actually. My son goes back on Tuesday and my girls go back on Wednesday. Yeah, if you're driving, clenching is fine, but for that you really want a pipe which is designed for that, you know, either a lightweight or a bent pipe. This is a Parker LX. It's a large Parker sandblasted with a beautiful sandblast. This comes from Rome in Italy, and I converted it to 9mm a couple of weeks ago. I did a live video doing it, and it smokes very well. It had a black vulcanite stem on it, and I've put a black and white smoky kind of like smoke swirls on it, acrylic stem. The sandblast on this is unreal. This one is from Novelli, actually. The Fincato one is a Talamona. This beautiful straight-grained Talamona. Well, almost straight grain, but very, very nice grain on this pipe. Got bird's eye on the base. And just really, really nice grain. It was actually a bit of a bargain. It took me a bit of a while to find the right tobacco for it, but vanilla roll cake smokes very well in it. And I actually came back with 3 pipes. No, 2 pipes, because this one I bought afterwards, and they sent it to me here. And this Jacopo was the other pipe I got. Also a nice sandblast on this one. Nice grain. And this was a bit of a bargain. I went into a small little kiosk, you know, like a cigarette sort of merchant, newspaper, cigarette, you know, one of these small little hole in the wall type things. And he had this little glass cabinet on the wall with maybe 15 pipes in it. And he had a Caminetto, what's it called? What's it called? The one with the wicks, the drip wax kind of effect. I can't remember now what it's called, but that was like a really stacked chimney. But that I could have converted to 9mm, but this one was already 9mm, so I just went with this one, and it smokes really well. I've smoked all it golden sliced in it mostly, and it's pretty good. It's got a huge bowl, and the inside is very, very big, the actual bowl itself. So it's good for a long smoke. It's comfortable. It's also quite large, so it's not really a clenching pipe. So it's when I'm sitting back and relaxing, same as this pipe. It's a pipe when I'm just sitting and relaxing. You can buy them off the website. They'll send it to you in the States. I got mine sent over. Retire in Italy, nice. See, ordinarily, a pipe like this, I wouldn't have done that conversion because it's, you're kind of taking it away from its original kind of thing. If you were a purist, you wouldn't mess around with the pipe. But because I bought it to smoke it and not to sell it or not to trade it or anything like that, I had no problem converting it and putting my own stem on it. I still have the original stem. To be honest, it's a very poor stem. What I bought it for was the sandblast, and it's really an amazing sandblast. And they do this range of larger pipes with these amazing sandblasts. When you compare it to the lower end Parkers, like the regular standard sized billiards, Dublins, and that kind of thing, apples, those you can buy for £40, £50, whereas this was listed for £250. I paid a little bit less than that, but I think they're worth it. I think they're good value. Nice. Whenever you're ready, trucking. I'm going to knock out some pipes for my website as well. I haven't had any pipes added to my website for quite some time. There is one pipe on there which hasn't sold. It's actually a Crown Series pipe. It's a gorgeous pipe. I don't know, I'm thinking maybe I should just make a Crown Series stem for that pipe. Maybe I put a Crown Series band on it. But maybe that's not enough. So this is the pipe 747, which hasn't sold. So it's got a little Crown Series band, the same stem material as a band. I'm thinking maybe I should just do a new stem on it. Maybe it'll help it sell. It's got some nice flame grain, and there you can see the stem material there. Nice carved blast on this as well. Beautiful grain on the rim. It's a really nice pipe. Maybe the pictures don't do it justice. I don't know. It's a bit like the Beau Nord shape, the pot. I might just do that. Maybe I'll make a new stem for it. It's actually a really nice pipe. I think the pictures don't do it justice. I think that's the problem. And the 750th pipe is sold now. That was a Rosebud, Crown Series Rosebud. Some very nice grain. So that one, the customer wanted a spare stem, so I'm in the process of sorting that out. Yeah, fire the photographer. You got 6 freehand. I assume you mean Nording. Very nice. Yeah, you could fire the photographer. I'm kind of firing myself on that. I'm really at the tail end of my photographic career now. My diary is very empty. I'll be honest with you, it takes too much out of me when I do it. I usually suffer for a day or two afterwards on my joints. I'm being much more choosy, even though I could do with the income, but I'm not taking every single job now. Truth be told, that you get paid for a couple of hours work and it's pretty decent pay, but the reality is it's not just those 2 hours. You've then got to spend hours on the computer, even though I do my best to get the pictures right in the camera, but you still always have to do editing. And so in reality, when you break it down that way, the hourly rate that you're getting paid is not as great as it sounds, because you got to maybe treble the hours that you're actually working. So if you get paid for a 2-hour job, in reality it's a 6-hour job, because you're going to spend 3-4 hours on it afterwards. Yeah, it is a pain in the buttocks, absolutely. So I find myself really, in the days when okay, that boils down. In the days when I was really doing photography most of my time, I would bend over backwards to accommodate a job and make sure that I get the job. Nowadays, for instance, to give you an example, if a customer says, for an engagement party, for instance, that they want me to set up a background and set up a proper sort of studio kind of situation, I just say, no, I don't do that. The only time I do a proper formal setup is for weddings, for the bridal shots and for the family shots. The rest, I don't. So for an engagement or a bar mitzvah or something like that, I just don't do it. I haven't done for years. I actually think in some scenarios when you set up a backdrop, you're completely separating yourself from the event, because all you're seeing is a shot with a background, and you don't see anything of the environment. You don't see the party. You don't see. Obviously, there's candid shots as well, but there's very rarely room to set up backgrounds, and it's always an unsatisfactory arrangement. So nowadays, I won't bend over backwards in that respect. I haven't done a wedding in a while. The last wedding I did was about 3 months ago, and I don't think I've got any lined up. And in the last year or two, exactly, Phil. Yeah, in the last year or two, I would say that I've slowly been sort of edged out of the market by many more younger photographers in my community. So it's been a natural progression, and the timing of the pipe making has been a godsend, for 2 reasons. Number one, because my career as a photographer is coming to an end, and also because of COVID. So during COVID, I kind of stuck to the rules as best as I could. I turned down many weddings. I turned down the equivalent of a year's income during COVID. And my pipe making was at a stage where I could sell the pipes comfortably, reasonably comfortably, really when COVID kicked in. So the whole thing timed very, very well. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. It really, the pipe selling, and the fact that people spent money on pipes during COVID when people thought everything was going to go to pot. But it didn't. People were spending. People bought more pipes during COVID than other times. It was unbelievable. Okay, people were being paid to stay at home, fair enough. And people were at home with time on their hands, so Pad and Tad were probably, really, really strong during COVID, during the lockdowns. But I would say that my pipe making confidence really kicked in during COVID. Yeah, definitely, Phil. Yeah, weddings are not, although they're very happy occasions, but they're, for the people working, it can be very, very stressful. So for the caterer, I would understand totally, because, you know, on the day you do something, maybe you'll move a table here or you'll move a table there, or you couldn't get enough napkins to match, so you got something else. And so the mother of the bride is going to have a fit and go completely bonkers. Oh, I'm not paying you, you didn't do what I asked, and all that kind of thing. It's exactly the same with photography. It doesn't always work out. Maybe the venue's not quite right, or maybe the bride's not feeling too great. I had one, besides for the fact that you actually act as a counselor on the day many, many times. The amount of times, I can't tell you how many times I've had to make peace between two sets of families. Bridezilla. I actually don't have that with brides. It's more the mothers of the brides. The brides in the community that I work in, the Jewish community, it's the Orthodox Jewish community, so they tend to be younger brides, getting married, around 20 years old, even younger. So they kind of just do as they're told. I'm very easy and very happy. I never have a problem with the bride or the groom or anything like that. Very rarely. It's always the mothers, and mostly the mothers of the bride, because they think it's their day. It's not the bride's day, it's the mother's day for some reason. And I've had times when the two sets of families, the bride's family and the groom's family, were just at each other's throats, and I've literally acted as a counselor. And thankfully, I've got a good temperament for that kind of thing, and it's basically been okay. But it can be very stressful. It's however well you do your job, sometimes it can be stressful. I've had brides that really, although I haven't had bridezillas, but I've had some who just didn't cooperate. They weren't interested, didn't smile, or were feeling off color that day. And I had one particular wedding where the bride was, as I say, was probably a spoiled brat, but she cooperated, but she just wasn't smiling that great. I mean, to be honest, to me, she looked okay. She seemed happy enough. But the mother contacted me after they got the pictures and said they're really not happy with things. You didn't make the bride smile enough. And to me, she looked fine. But she says she's really unhappy with it, and she didn't go ahead with the album, which originally she ordered. I didn't make a fight of it. I said, fine, no problem, have it as you wish. And that was that. I didn't make an issue of it. But the thing with photography as well, which is very difficult, is that people forget what actually happened on the day. They're in a very stressful kind of situation. It is stressful for the families. I give them leeway for that because it is stressful. I give them plenty of leeway for that, and my main job is to remain calm. But the thing is with photography is that if you when it comes to weddings, I usually give the pictures. I tell them up to 12 weeks, depending on how busy my diary is. If it's a smaller function, I usually give it within a week or 2 weeks. But weddings, because it needs a lot of time to put the package together and to process it, so I tell them usually up to 12 weeks. And I do my best to stick to that. I don't always manage, but I do my best. Let's see if this is still any good. I smoked this yesterday. It's one of the best cigars I've had in a while. Best Cuban cigars. And the Partagas E2. Quite a big cigar. There's another one. It's E2. It's like a Toro size, I'd say. People that I know, if I'm close enough to, and they ask me if they look fat or they look how they look, I say, you is what you is. So what I was saying is that people forget. Stuff can go wrong on the day. I remember Which one was that? You know, sometimes you'll do a wedding and one more cheeseburger away from being single. I remember times when the venue had problems and we had to take photos in a different room where it wasn't set up for photography, so the photos didn't look great because the background wasn't right or whatever, and they'll forget all of that and they'll just say the pictures don't look good, and they'll forget 3 months down the line that there was actually a lot of problems on the day which were not in my control, and people just forget. And that's why when you're a photographer you have to kind of stay in your comfort zone as much as possible. As soon as you get out of that comfort zone, it has an effect on the whole photography. So when you have a choice of, let's say somebody changes their mind on the day, let's say the bride or the bride's mother changes their mind about something on the day, you have to stick to your guns and say, no, this is how we're going to do it, as much as possible. Obviously you don't want to have an argument, but as much as possible, because with photography, when you get out of your comfort zone, it's still tasting great. When you get out of your comfort zone, that's when everything goes pear-shaped. One of the lines that I don't like as well is, you know, so when you're working with a family, it's really important to go and meet them beforehand so that you break the ice and you get to know them a little bit, and you can just sort of be a little bit more familiar with them on the day, and you can kind of get some humor going, some banter and that kind of thing, and it just eases everything. But sometimes some people are just not into that, and it makes you feel off balance straight away. And if you're off balance and you're not relaxed, then it's very hard to have banter. You can't force banter, and you can't force genuine camaraderie, if you like, because when you have that, then you get humor and you get them laughing and you get great pictures. When you don't have that, or if something happens that puts you off kilter, very hard to use to re-establish that kind of easygoing situation. And the worst line when that happens is when the subject says to me, make me smile or make me laugh, say something funny, and I'll say to them, sorry, I'm not a comedian, I'm a photographer, and I'll do what I can. But if you don't have the banter, it's the banter which does it. You know, if you got to create that frisson, that kind of situation where you're bouncing off each other and you get the laughter. I could do that, no problem. But when there's friction, it's impossible to do it. You can't force that. And once that happens, I go into sort of a automaton, just get the job done. And if they don't like it afterwards, there's nothing I can do. Yeah, that works in some circles, but it doesn't really work when you're working in a Hasidic wedding. That kind of stuff just doesn't work. And that can be quite challenging, but it's a different culture, completely different culture. And a lot of times when you're working with ultra-Orthodox, they're not expecting anything anyway. In that respect, they're not expecting banter, they're not expecting humor or anything like that. So as much as they smile, and I don't really get a problem with it afterwards, because they're not expecting anything more. It's I have to say, look, I've been at it for, you know, probably around 20 odd years, and it's been interesting, and I've enjoyed it for the most part. And I would say that also for the most part, customers have been really great. There's always a few exceptions. I mean, I've had only 2 occasions, well, 3 occasions, where I've had issues. One time, so I really give credit to my customers, that they've really behaved very well. I haven't had any nightmares, you know, sort of about payment and that kind of thing, except for 3 occasions. And actually only one of them was a nightmare. So on one occasion, I turned up at I think it was either a bar or a bat mitzvah, I don't remember which it was. Fancy family, nice venue. I was just sort of arrived to take the photos, and as I'm walking through the venue, I see another photographer setting up, and hey John, and it was all very embarrassing. Essentially, the husband had booked me, the wife had booked another photographer, and they had obviously some disagreement over it, But he had already started unpacking. I didn't want any friction, so I said, don't worry about it, and I walked out. This is going back quite a number of years. The father was actually very gracious about it. He came out and apologized profusely, and he actually gave me £50, and he said, sorry, here's for your trouble. So it was disappointing, you know, but still, that was okay. The second one was somebody booked me for a wedding. I don't take deposits because I have a trust relationship. And well, it was decent of me too. I could have said, sorry, but you need to pay me for being, you know, either choose him or me, or I don't mind going, but pay me for the whole job. I mean, I would have been in my rights to do that, or at least a decent amount. But at least he ran after me and gave me something, so that was okay. I was okay with that. Yeah, the second one was somebody had booked me for a wedding and cancelled me literally a day or two before the wedding, and they didn't really give me a proper reason for it. But I think it was just the bride decided they wanted somebody else. And as I say, I don't take deposits from people as a rule. I trust people, and that's never really let me down, except for these couple of occasions. I've done hundreds probably of weddings, or jobs I've done probably thousands, but weddings I've probably done a few hundred. And out of that 300, I can say that literally I've only had 3 issues. So the second one, they cancelled me literally just before the wedding, and they gave me £300 as a cancellation kind of sort of compensation, which again was only a small amount compared to the overall wedding package, but I went with that. But the third one was really the only real problem I had, which is why I left it to last. I was booked for a wedding in Belgium, actually. I've done a few weddings abroad. I've done a wedding in Switzerland a couple of times, and I've done one in Belgium, in Antwerp. There's a Jewish community there. And I was actually booked because the main photographer who was supposed to do it, for some reason couldn't do it, and he needed to find a photographer, and he booked me to do it. So I went, and I said that I don't mind doing it, but I need to be paid on the day, because I'm not running to Belgium to get paid if I don't get paid. So I have to be paid on the day. But as it turned out, I had another issue there as well. I drove there, and I actually parked somewhere which I didn't understand the language and the parking restrictions. I parked somewhere where I shouldn't park, and 2 coppers were out there. They were going to take the car away, and they said that I have to pay them on the spot, which in England you don't get that. You never pay a fine. They send you the fine and you pay for it online. So it was very odd to me that I would pay a fine on the spot. I assumed they were legit, I don't know. But I didn't have any money. I only had a bit of English money, which they weren't interested in. So I had to borrow money from somebody in the hall, and that was that, and moved the car. So the actual amount of the wedding, I don't remember what it was. It was a couple of £1,000, something like that, £2,500. And on the night at the end of the wedding, he gave me, I think, £500, either £400 or £500. And I said to him, that wasn't the agreement. I need to be paid. I'm going back to London. You know, I need to be paid. So he said, don't worry, I'll sort you out. Long story short, he didn't sort me out, and I kept on contacting him for the payment, and he just never paid it. So I said to him, you know what, I'll start working on the photos when I'm paid. You take your time, you do what you want, but I'm not spending another minute on the photos until I'm paid in full. Basically, he didn't trust me that I was a good photographer, so he wanted to see the photos before we paid for it, and I wasn't having any of that. I was doing a favor to somebody to cover that wedding, and whether you like the photos or not is irrelevant. I need to be paid. So I stuck to my guns, And this went on for about 6 months. And in the end, I won out. He paid. And then I said, well, now your photos go into the queue. So you'll have to wait till it hits the queue. I'm not working on them now. So all in all, they had to wait something like 9 months to get their photos. Sometimes that's not a good thing to do because you create a reputation, because somebody says, because Antwerp doesn't really have a bunch of photographers, so they always import photographers. So if people ask the last person who had a foreign photographer, how was he? And they say he actually wasn't very good to deal with or something like that, then that's it, you don't get another wedding there. I don't think I've done a couple in Antwerp. I don't think I got one after that, and that's fine, because it's a huge investment to do an overseas job, because you got to travel one day, even though the travel itself is only a few hours. But I generally never travel on the day of a wedding. So even if I'm going up north, I've done a lot of weddings up north in near Newcastle in Gateshead. I don't travel on the day because it's just too risky to travel on the day, even if there's time. So certainly going abroad, it's a 3-day thing, because I have to travel the day before the wedding itself. I can't travel back after the wedding because it's late at night, 12 in the morning, 1 in the morning, something like that. So then it's another day. So it's 3 days out of my life. I can't charge them for 3 days' time. I can only charge them for one wedding. So I charge a surcharge. I think in those days I was charging £400 extra to go abroad, which really all that did was cover my accommodation and my travel costs. It really wasn't covering my time at all. So it's really a hassle to do it, to be honest. But when I went to Switzerland to do weddings, what I did was each time I was happy to book an extra day, because I spent the 3rd day going to tobacconists. And if you have a look, going back a few years, there's a Zurich trip, and you'll see I went to a whole bunch of tobacconists. I spent 1 day doing that, and it was fantastic. I was on my own time, didn't have anybody badgering me about going home or anything like that, and that was actually fantastic. But that was the only time I had a problem with a customer, and I had to put my foot down. But in the long run, I may well have lost out over it. Who knows? But there you go. He probably got a lot of pressure from his daughter and his wife. You're right, Phil. Yeah. They were interesting people. There were other things which happened at the wedding which I thought were very, very interesting, which I won't go into. The very rare occasion where the construction of a cigar was absolutely spot on a Cuban cigar. This thing has smoked perfectly from the beginning to the end, and it sat here for 24 hours, and I've relit it, and it still tastes great. I'm getting towards nubbing it. It draws very, very well. It's not tight in any way at all. I hope the next one's just as good. Got one more of these. I got these actually from another photographer. I have mentioned it, I think. There's a guy who I've known since childhood, who became a photographer in the last 10 years. And he's an interesting chap, and some people might see him as abrasive, but I've never had that problem with him. Not abrasive, he's just maybe a bit of a rebel. So not everybody likes him, but I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue with any other photographer, even though it's competition. And so he's more of a street photographer, kind of self-trained, and never really understood the technicalities, f-stop numbers, and ratios of lighting when you're doing a lighting setup, doing 3 different levels of lighting in order to create modeling on the subject and that kind of thing. Never understood any of that. So I've been teaching that to him. So each time I spend time with him on it, he sends me a bunch of cigars. He orders them from GQ Tobaccos. And the last time he sent me 2 of these. And that's like 70 quid or something like that, 80 quid. Which I wasn't taking any money from him. He's a friend. But I was happy to receive them, and they really smoke very well. You know what, David, New World cigars nowadays are great. I started off on Cubans, and then went off Cubans, I'm talking about 5 years ago. I was so disappointed with the construction. I was angry at each time I opened the box, and a significant percentage were unsmokable. So I just stopped buying Cuban cigars for a while. At that time I also had problems with tongue bite. I hadn't discovered 9mm pipes yet. And so for about a year I was smoking non-Cubans, and then I discovered 9mm. I went back to pipes. I still smoked cigars here and there, but mainly pipes. And now, because the Cuban prices have gone skyrocketing, I'm going back to New World cigars. But I have to say, when you get a good Cuban cigar, there's nothing like it. The thing is, John, nowadays, everybody's a photographer. The cameras on phones are pretty good. Even the best one is not gonna, when it comes to the resolution. When you're taking a photo with your iPhone or your Samsung, whatever it might be, even if it's a pro version, you'll get a really nice photo to look at on a phone or even on a computer screen. But when you want to print it up, depends how large you want to go. You still have to have a professional camera for that. And even though they're getting closer and closer with the quality on phones, they're still not the same. At the end of the day, the chip on a phone is going to be the size. It's going to be literally, a couple of millimeters, maybe a little bit bigger nowadays. Whereas on a professional camera, it's going to be the size of a postage stamp. Or if it's a 35mm, it'll be a 35mm size. So imagine that size compared to that size. You obviously can't compare the resolution. Yeah, but in actual fact, you're better off with a lower megapixel count on a phone. Because if you're cramming 40 megapixels into a very, very tiny chip, that's going to be too crammed, and you're going to end up, when you pixel peep and you zoom into the picture, you're going to lose resolution. To me personally, I think 12 megapixels is around the sweet spot for a phone camera. All they need to do is improve the quality of it, but to cram in more megapixels, I don't think it's a great idea. More megapixels is just a number, and people who don't understand it will gravitate towards that because it's a bigger number. But bigger is not better. A bigger number in megapixels is not necessarily better, unless you've got a big chip. If you've got a 35mm chip, then you can carry 40 megapixels, no problem. I use the 5D Mark III, the Canon 5D Mark III for my photography. I can't remember how many megapixels that one is. Maybe it's 20 odd. I don't remember. Yes, Sam, absolutely. I can't agree with you more. It's the implementation. In reality, it's lighting. Obviously you need to have the skill to get the moments. But besides for that, the lighting. It's all about the lighting. Even if you've got a camera which is old, but if you get the lighting right, that's what it's all about. And that's what I've been teaching this guy, is the lighting. Is having 3 lights and making best use of them. A key light, a fill light, and a hair light. And he'd never heard of the concept of a hair light. And when I showed him the difference between a picture with a hair light and without, he was blown away. I'm waiting for the results. He actually used that setup the first time last week, so I'm hoping he managed to get some good shots. The problem is that if it doesn't work straight away, it can be very discouraging. And for years, I used the light meter to get it spot on. Nowadays, I can look at the picture and see what I've got, and I can set it up that way and adjust the lighting accordingly. Because I used to use studio lights, so every single time I was doing, say, a bridal shot, I'd have 3 studio lights with extension leads and everything like that, and then obviously I would meter each one and get it exactly what I wanted, and the lighting would be stunning. But nowadays I don't use studio lights. I use sort of off-camera flashes, just regular. I mean, they're high-powered, but you know, this one is this is a 580 EX2, but I was using 600s. I had 4 600s, which worth a fortune. But recently I went over to Godox, which is a Chinese set, and they're like a fraction of the price, and they work pretty well. They're not perfect, but they work pretty well. The lighting is not as good as using studio lights, but I haven't used studio lights now for a long time, and I wouldn't want to. You're so tethered, you know, you've got to have extension leads and wires everywhere and triggers and all that kind of stuff, which is just inbuilt in these flashes that I'm using. So I wouldn't want to go back to studio lights. I sometimes take them with me when I'm doing a wedding, just in case something goes pear-shaped with my lights, so I've got a backup. But and the thing is you got to force yourself not to be lazy. I had one situation where I did, I think it was a bar mitzvah, and for some reason, I think the table settings were late and we didn't have access to do photos till the last minute, and either I didn't have time to set up my other lights or I had a problem with them. I don't remember what, but I just used the on-camera flash and it was a disaster. On the camera it looked okay, but when I went back to process them, they looked terrible. And that was a very, very sharp lesson that it taught me, is never ever divert from your comfort zone, which is what I was saying earlier on. You got to stick to what you know, and if you've got no time, you just say, I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to wait, otherwise pictures ain't going to work. And that was a very, very sharp lesson. I had shadows all over the place, which I had to then play around with in Photoshop, which I hate doing, but I had to because it was my fault, really, even though there were sort of challenges at the venue, but they don't look at it that way. It's, if my pictures are no good, then it's my fault. But so I still got to do more editing on those photos. I gave them their photos already, but they said they want a number of them edited to get rid of shadows. The mother of the boy has a shadow on her nose, so I've got to get rid of those. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, my photography grew up in the digital age. I literally started right at the beginning of the digital age. As a teenager, I used film, but when I started doing photography professionally, it was with digital. So I had those advantages from day one. Starting to feel the nicotine now, but what a great cigar. I assume you're talking about second-hand, Phil, if you're talking about the XT1. I have a Fuji, a very early one. This is the XA1. Nice little camera, but the chip's not up to it anymore. It's okay outdoors, but the button's not working very well anymore. It's kind of had it. I would like to get myself, once I sort of really fully retire from professional photography, I'd like to get myself a small camera. No, it doesn't have a viewfinder. Don't think it does. No, I think you could buy an attachable viewfinder if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. But I really like the Fuji range because they remind me so much of the Leica rangefinders, and I can't afford a Leica, so rangefinder, yeah. Because when you use the Fuji, you feel like you're using a camera because you've got all the settings there like a traditional 35 film camera, but it's digital. So I just like the feel of the Fujis. I think the time lapses, we're saying the same things. I'm just going to refresh my screen. I mean, there are some great small cameras out there, but the ones that I've tried have never been quite up to it. The image quality just hasn't been there. So I've got to, once I retire, I'll sell my big cameras, sell all my flashes, and I'll invest in a good quality small camera, I think. Maybe keep the flashes so I can still do a little bit, do the odd job here or there. You know, just keep my hand in kind of thing. The Olympus OMs, those are, again, it just looks like and feels like and works like a film camera. You know, 4/3 nowadays is decent quality. Still talking about a decent sized chip. I mean, for a while, when I started off in the profession, I was using the smaller format Canons. I was using I started off with a 10D, and I went to the 20, then the 30, the 40. I went all the way up to the 40, and then I got a Canon 5D. The difference between the 440 and the 5D, the 40D and the 5 was immense. Now the 5, I wouldn't use a 5. The image quality is just not up to it. When you're used to a 5D3, you can't go to a 5. I've got a 5D2, which was what I used after the 5. I went to the 5D2, and that's my backup body, which I keep in my bag in case my 5D3 goes kaput. And it could happen any time because I've hammered the crap out of that camera. You know, I've got bits and pieces glued. You wouldn't believe what I've had to do to that camera to keep it going. It's the 5D3, which is my workhorse. It's my second 5D3 that I've had. It's a great camera, a really fantastic camera. I'm tempted to get the 5D4, but I can't justify it anymore because I don't work enough in photography to justify it. But I'm really tempted to get it. Yeah, the 5D was a groundbreaking camera. It was the first full frame digital camera, and it was a groundbreaking camera, and it was great in its day. Nowadays, if you're doing professional work, I'm not talking about if you're doing outdoor work, it's fine for that. And if you're doing landscape work, absolutely no problem. You can do that with any, because that's all about lighting, and you can do a slow exposure. That's no problem if you're on a tripod. But if you're working at weddings, when you're doing a lot of action shots, the 5D just wouldn't cut it anymore. I would say that nowadays, if anybody was starting, 5D3 has got to be a baseline nowadays. But I see photographers out there now with smaller bodies working professionally, so the Sonys are really good. Sonys are supposed to be fantastic. They've got really good glass as well, fantastic lenses. Yeah, I've been through my fair share of Canon lenses as well. Yeah, the 5D is film-like because you're getting a bit of noise on there. So you get that grit kind of thing which you get from film. Yeah, Sony's, I agree, Patrick. Sony's have produced some stunning work. Yeah, I mean, but they all had monopods, they weren't, I mean, some of them carried them, but, you go to any football match or any kind of sport event and they're using these 500, these massive, great big behemoths. But that's, it's only if you're in that kind of line of business. Or perhaps if you're a wildlife photographer. In my early days as a photographer, my wife bought me for a present a beautiful, massive book, a really, really big book of wildlife photography. I forget the name of the photographer. Just stunning photos in there. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but you see, a lot of those shots will be done with pre-focusing. I do that a lot when I'm at a wedding and taking photos of the dancing. So that takes years of doing that kind of thing. So when you've got sort of family dancing in a circle or whatever it might be, to get the right shot with the bride or the groom in the exact spot where you want it, you've got to pre-focus and almost click before they get into that position. That takes practice, that takes time. I know a lot of photographers who just ramp up the ISO nowadays, because you can do that with modern cameras. You can go up to 3,000-4,000 ISO, even higher. You can go to 12,000. On the latest cameras, you can go up to 100 and something thousand on ISO. So you can just work without flash. And I know a lot of photographers, when it comes to those kind of shots, the dancing and that kind of thing, they just ramp up the ISO. But I still use lighting. I still, when I'm doing dancing, I'll put lights in sort of 3 positions in a triangle, and then sort of the dancing area will be well lit. Yeah, panning is really cool. So you get the movement in the rest of the shot, but the actual subject is sharp. That's nice. I never got into ND filters. So for landscaping, you need that. I never got into that. But you can do that when you're using lighting. Not for landscaping, but when you're doing, say, a bride shot outside. So you can focus, you can expose the image for the sky. So you get a really moody, cloudy kind of sky, and light the subject with flash. So you can do it as if you've got ND filters, but that's actually takes quite a bit of time to do it each time. So yeah, absolutely, Phil. One eye in the viewfinder and the other eye is open. absolutely. Yeah, I never got into them. I bought one ND filter once because I thought I'd try and do some landscaping, but it wasn't my field. I would have had to have spent a lot of time into it, and I just didn't have. There was no. I was doing it for a living at the time, and I wouldn't have made any money from that. And so I just stuck with what I was doing. Almost done. It's one of those cigars which are hard to put down. I haven't really got into macro either. I was at one stage going to do that for jewellery. I was doing jewellery photography, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't what I wanted. There's so much editing to do when you're doing jewellery. I just didn't go into it. There's a lot of money in it, but it's a different skill set. It's like pipe making and pipe repairs. They're a different skill set. I get a lot of inquiries about pipe repairs, and 99% of the time I don't take them on. If it's something really straightforward, I'll take it on, but generally speaking, I just don't do it. It takes too much time, and you can't charge for it, and it's like I say, it's a different skill set. And when people talk to me, if they're in the UK, I just send them to either Blakemar or Northern Rise. These guys have been doing it for years. Their skill set is just off the charts. And they've got the machinery for it. It's a different set of machinery as well. So, for instance, when you're working on a shank, and you've got to re-drill a shank, or you've got to, or whatever it might be, working on a pipe that's already made and you can't put it on a lathe, so you have to put it on one of these sort of old-fashioned kind of lathes where it's just a motor, and they have these levers where they can bring it in and out. They'll bring the pipe into the drill or something like that. I tried to get a chuck made. Phil had a good crack at it. Big Phil. He made me a chuck which could hold the shank of a pipe, but I've just not. I have to play with it. I haven't really been confident enough to use it on pipes, because I was worried that I would ruin pipes. But I guess I could spend some more time on that. Oh, interesting. I've never done underwater photography. That sounds interesting. I mean, nowadays you can get waterproof housings and that kind of thing, but I never ever dabbled with that at all. Plus, here in the UK, there isn't really the water for that. Water is not clear. The water here in the UK is, I'm sure there are some coastlines which are clean, but for the most part, it's quite cloudy. The water, very salty and cloudy. You are on Biot. What is that? You'll have to enlighten me on that one, Phil. British Indian Ocean Territory. Okay. Send me some, Phil. Send me some of your stuff. some of your photos. It'd be nice to see. Anyway, I hope I'll be getting my mod watch, my modded Seiko, hopefully in about a week or so. It's been shipped. I've got a tracking number, so I'm really excited about that. It's really hard for me because I watch my son, who's, thank God, he's very successful in what he does, but he's also got a pawn shop for watches, so he's got some really expensive watches. But I'm not in a position to have that kind of watch collection. So this sort of mod kind of arrangement works very well for me. Still have a nice watch, but not pay the earth for it. Anything, Phil. It's always good to see photography. Casio Marlin. Yeah, very nice. $53.93. That is nice. You're talking about this? $53.93. That's a good price. I mean, look at that. That was a great cigar. One of the best I've had in a long time. I've never gotten into the NATO straps, I must be honest. I've always found that maybe I'll try one day, but I just found them to be, the proportion not to work because it's such a thin strap, and you got it's a thin strap with a bulky watch. Just never looked right to me, but I guess I'd have to see one in the flesh, see what it looks like. I can't imagine they're that expensive to get a NATO strap. Thank you, Sam. OD, what's OD mean, Phil? Is that the ones that you thread through one piece? Is that what that is? That Casio is a lot of watch for the money. But I'll be honest with you, nowadays, olive drab. Nowadays, I almost always only buy watches which are automatic. I just don't want to be messing around with batteries, that's all. So it could be a rechargeable, like a Kinetic or a Pro, what's the name from Citizen has? Pro Drive, is it called? Seiko's is Kinetic. Those kind of things, I'll certainly have that, no problem. This is an automatic movement. But this one here, which I want to mod, but so far I haven't found anybody that will do it in a way which is sort of viable. This one's is beaten up. I want to change the bezel and get a sapphire glass. This is also a Seiko. I wore this one for many years and it still works perfectly well. Nice chunky watch. Also looks like a sort of GMT kind of thing. Yeah, you're right. I mean, quartz accuracy is unbeatable. You know, even the best automatic, the best Rolex is not going to be as good as a quartz watch for accuracy. That's true. But I just like the convenience of not having to worry about the battery. I mean, there is a shop here that does a lifetime battery. I did that on my Tissot. Where is it? So this is my Tissot Quadrato, the chronograph. It's quartz, and this one I just didn't wear it because the battery had died and I just couldn't be bothered with it. And one day I decided to go and get the battery, and the shop offered a lifetime, so you could pay £10 or £15 more, and they give you a ticket, a card, and every time you present the card they'll change the battery for you free. So they give you a lifetime battery for an extra £10 or £15. I think all in all it cost me about £35, and it would have cost me 20 or 25 to change the battery, and for an extra 15 quid they give you a lifetime of batteries. I thought it was worthwhile, so I did that with this watch. And I like wearing this watch. It's like more of a dress kind of watch. It's got a sapphire crystal. Nice watch. I thought they were still hard to come by, but the last time I showed it, I think it was Mike Bry Blues who said that they're quite available still on eBay. I wanted to get, they did have an automatic version which was a slightly different design, but I haven't seen them since. I bought this watch I don't know, maybe 6-7 years ago, something like that. That's my TW Steel tankard, which I like as well. It's a nice watch. I wear that sometimes. And my son, who's now into much more expensive watches, gave me this watch, which I have to repair. This is a huge TW Steel, very, very big. But I need to. The strap's broken. It's snapped over there. So the pin's still there, but I need to get a new strap for it. And a battery. So he gave me that watch, which was nice of him. Let's just pull the crown out, save the battery. This is a knockoff of a Bulgari. This is an automatic. I originally thought it was a real watch, and my dad, who's now retired, he was in the jewellery trade, and he tried to sell it for me. But a few days later, the guy called back and said no, he wants to renege because it's not real. So I had to give him his money back. It's got a nice Bulgari marked case back. It's sapphire, so it's actually a really nice watch. It's a nice dress watch as well, even though it's not real, but it keeps good time. It's automatic. I mean, the guy said it's not real, but who knows? I mean, they've gone to a great length to make this a nice watch, you know, to make a case back, and to have the winder there with a Bulgari stamp on it. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of the companies are now doing those bayonet things. Very, very clever. It's about time that they had a sensible system. So I might try. I mean, I had a price quoted for this, which would have been about £200 for a sapphire crystal, for a new bezel, and also I wanted to get the hands changed because the hands have the lume only on the ends, and at night it's really hard to see that. So I wanted to change the hands for full, more like this, where the whole hand is luminous. That level of changing I can't do, but I'm not going to mess around with that. Apparently the bezels are quite easy to just snap off, so I might just do that. And I wouldn't want to mess around with changing the glass either myself, but it's quite scratched up, the crystal on this one. These are like a hardlex crystals, they're not sapphire. But the watch itself, you know, you can buy them for a couple of £100, 250 quid. So to spend £200 modding it is not worth it. Right, gentlemen, it's 2:10, so I'm going to call it a day. Thanks very much for staying with me. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, David, rocking steady. Thank you, Patrick. I don't know who else is still on. Who have we got here? John, all bried up. Thanks very much. All right, thank you, Chip. Have a great week, all of you. Hopefully we'll get cracking on some pipes this week. Probably have a day out with the family on Monday, so maybe there'll be a video resulting from that, depending on what we do. We're thinking of going to Windsor, maybe. Haven't been to Windsor for a while. That's always a good bet. Maybe take a boat on the river. We shall see. But for now, I will wish you all good night. Thank you, Mad Pipes. Have a great week, and I'll catch you on the next one.